y'all doing today? You ready to get ready for paper talks at Welly Weekends? Well, we're excited to be here with y'all today. So I am one third of the Common Good Collective. Shout out to my team in the back, Ale and Nick, with the sound effects. So the Common Good creates spaces for Black entrepreneurs in Sacramento. We're building community, creating resources for folks, and we also do the Paper Talk series where we get to talk to amazing entrepreneurs. And so today we are talking with Da'Reen for Won't She Do It? How you doing today? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You want to take a moment to introduce yourself to the people?
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Da'Reen Reichenberg. I am, the co-owner of Poppy and Pot. We are a husband and wife team. We do flowers and ceramics, and our shop is in Curtis Park.
Yes. Okay. So the first question is, what sparked your interest in turning your passion into a business?
Um, so let's see. How do I start with that one? I didn't have a passion for floral design until I actually started working at a flower shop. It was something I always wanted to do, but flower shops, I don't know if anyone's ever worked in one before. It's not very common. But there's usually a lot of hoops to jump through. You got to have experience. You got to really know what you're doing. And I got lucky because they were looking for a customer service person. So that's how I kind of weasel my way into the flower shop with zero experience. I went to school for fashion. After seeing that with the fashion industry, it's really not about your degree, it's about who you know. I kind of was like, I'm in Sacramento, let me figure something else out. So I started doing other creative things and needed a job one day, saw a Craigslist ad for a flower shop and applied and got hired on the spot. And that is where I fell in love with floral design. Excuse me, the other florist there had been florists for years. There's Ed, who's 85 now, who has been a florist for over 60 years. He's a Black man. He actually used to own, I think Del Paso Florist. Yeah, he owned that for 30 years. And Lisa, who is still my mentor to this day, had been a florist for over 30 years herself. So I was taught by amazing people in the industry, and they taught me everything that I know now. And started doing weddings. They were really cool. They started seeing, because I'm an artist, that I can duplicate things. So they let me start designing pretty early. And I just kind of went from there. But it wasn't until I saw how much the shop was making for a wedding that I did versus how much I was making for a wedding that I did, where I was like, hold up.
The math ain't math.
The math is. So that's what I was like, I could do this by myself. And quit. I was at the shop for 3 years, quit December of 2019. And we know that that was right before the pandemic. So yeah, I started as Daisy Head Florals. I had weddings booked and then quit my job, and all my weddings canceled because of the pandemic. So luckily at the time, my husband had an amazing paying job. It was a really toxic job. He hated, but he was making good money. So he was like, we're going to figure this out. But yeah, that's pretty much how I got my start, was that. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, that did. And I think that's so interesting because I never thought about what it took for folks to get into the floral business. You don't see, it's like, do you go to school for it? What does that look like? And I worked at a flower shop during the pandemic randomly. Yes. In Brooklyn. I worked down the street. I mean, I lived down the street, and I needed a job during the pandemic. I graduated. I was like, hey, I need some. I buy plants all the time. And she's like, hey, come in. And so I always wondered how folks got into that work. And also, what has it been like, as a Black woman breaking into floral design? Because you don't see a lot of.
You don't see a lot of us. Yeah, that's been the part that I think has kind of worked in my favor,
Mm.
is that I don't look like everyone. So, there's we want to we want to support the Black business. So we're going to hire the Black florist. There are those moments where I'm like, okay, I know you guys are really just hiring me because you need the Black girl. But I mean, I deal with a lot of, I wouldn't say like hate, but I deal with a lot of people not really taking me seriously.
Mm.
Even I notice even other Black people will be like, oh, wait, oh, you have a shop? Oh, wait. And then it's a totally different conversation.
Hmm.
Uh, Setting up at venues, I am often mistaken for working at the venue. At the wholesaler, I'm mistaken for being an employee at the wholesaler. And that's really irritating. But I make it very known, like, no, I'm the owner.
Period.
I'm the owner.
I own this shit.
Exactly.
Smile. Yeah. So how do you take care of yourself in those moments, right? Because I think as entrepreneurs, especially if you're breaking into, work that's not normal or not normal that people don't see us in often,
Yeah.
how do you tend to yourself as you navigate those things? Because I can only imagine how often that may happen.
I'm still working on that. Um, I'm working on my self care. That's a hard thing for me. I'm also a mom, I'm a wife. And so I think kind of as women, just in general, we kind of fall back and nurture other people's needs before our own. So it is something that I'm really working on though. But I do often remind myself that like, no, I'm good. I'm good at what I do. I have moments where I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is what they asked for because I do big events and um, yeah, I have a lot of imposter syndrome and self doubt that I'll deal with. But there's a lot of times too where I finish something and I'm like, damn, I'm really good at this. Like,
But that imposter syndrome, let's talk about that for a moment because I feel like the way it be creeping up on you, like, shh, be quiet. Ain't nobody invite you over here. Dang. But I feel like as Black entrepreneurs, that comes up a lot for us, right? If you're the first in your family
oh
to be a
God,
business owner, especially you own a brick and mortar, right? In a really poppin' neighborhood too. So
it's fire. We can do things.
did you big night?
I don't want to get too too deep. But I think when you were saying like, being the first entrepreneur in your family, I deal with a lot with my family because my family's very religious and I'm not. So I deal with a lot of that guilt and shame on top of being a queer woman um, and being very vocally supportive of the queer community um, is hard for my family. Um, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. We were talking about imposter syndrome.
No, but I think that's a part of it too, right? As we
Yeah.
think about our families and what our families feel like what a normal 9 to 5 is,
Exactly.
especially the generation that our families are coming
Yes.
from. So you on track. So keep going.
Yeah, no, we get you get a lot of like, oh, I haven't seen you lately, or you haven't called lately, or, I'm like, do you know, let me just tell you what I did today. Today, I did a setup for the Trans Day of Visibility, a flow backdrop at 10 a.m. Went home, got dressed, came here. I have to leave here, get into drag because I teach a class in drag called Bouquet You Slay in my shop. So that class is tonight. So that's all just one day. My husband is at the shop right now. He had a glaze class. He's now just at the shop, probably bullshitting, honestly. But we're busy.
Yeah.
We're busy, and it's hard when it's not taken seriously. That like, no, we're really busy.
And having to explain to Black families, it's like, this is a job.
Yeah.
Just because I work for
Yeah.
myself doesn't make it any less of a job
That.
or any less important. And
That.
so, like, how I think too, taking care of yourself in that sense of like having to constantly, or maybe make the choice not to, have to remind them of like, hey, we're not going to do this.
Exactly. And I'm that person. I am I'm very blunt, and it's taken a lot for me to be able to speak up for myself. And I make it a point to do that and to teach my daughters to do that as well.
Yeah, so important in taking care of yourself and also sustainability because on top of your imposter syndrome, but the fears, I talk about like the fears of your family, you embodying them. And so how are we releasing their lack, their, their relationship with lack and not adopting it
Right.
when it comes to our work?
Go ahead. Oh, sorry.
Both. Whatever comes.
I think I've gotten to the point where I'm happy. Like I'm genuinely happy and I'm good with that. I'm good with being just happy. And that's what I want out of life is happiness. And it took a long time for me to realize no one can take that from me.
No.
They try, but no one can take that from me.
Yeah, that joy is so important. As an entrepreneur, how do you make space for you and all the roles you play? You said you're a mother, you're a shop owner, you're a wife.
I don't know if I do that yet. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Yeah. Yeah, I think I've gotten better at being more social again. For a while, I just kind of took a step back and was just like, I'm tired all the time. I'm busy all the time. And started letting like friendships like dwindle and things like that. But I'm finally in the space now where I'm like, you know what? It's time to start doing things for me again and start having fun again. Like I said, I do drag. I teach a class in drag, but I also perform in drag. It's been like therapy for me during a really hard, traumatic time of my life a couple years ago. So when I found being a drag performer, that just kind of being on stage and letting go, when I put on lashes, there's something that my shoulders start moving. I turn to a different person. So that's probably my biggest like piece that I get to just kind of do for me, and that's my takeaway. Because when mommy's getting in makeup, mommy's painting right now, so everybody knows.
Yeah. And thinking about that too, because you said you're still working on it, but as entrepreneurs, like we have to start to like divvy out our time to make sure it's not 24/7. So how are you like creating space, right, to like separate work and then home, especially because you and your partner work together?
Yeah. The nice thing is my husband and I, we do two totally different jobs. So I'm the florist, he's a potter. So that's where our name Poppy and Pot comes from. We are not a dispensary. It's a common misconception. We get calls all the time. We're not a dispensary. But our jobs are so different that we don't do a lot of things together. We're in the same space all the time, but we don't really spend like time together at work, if that makes sense. So that part is kind of nice because we're not like butting heads and we're not feeling like we're spending too much time together. But yeah, I forgot what the question was.
Okay. Of like finding balance, right? So that so you're not always feeling like you're at work because you work for yourself.
Calendar. Like my calendar has been my saving grace. Like I am one of those people now where I'm like, you want to hang out? Okay, hold on. Let me see what color the block is right now. So yeah, really taking the time to look at what I have going on instead of just committing to things and saying yes. That's a big thing I'm working on too, is trying to not say yes to everything. Yeah, it's a work in progress.
So so when you think about yes, because I think about that as an entrepreneur too, when opportunities come up, does that mean not saying yes to all opportunities or even just all things in general of like balance?
All things in general. Opportunities too. There's a lot of things where I'm like, you know what, that doesn't actually serve me. It doesn't, if I have to question the person or what they stand for, that will play a role in if I do business with them or not, honestly.
What has been one of your most eye-opening moments as a business owner?
oh, look, like putting yourself out there, just asking for things and getting them. Um, I, on Tuesday, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the rap duo Flyana Boss. They're really popular on TikTok. They just had their first tour, their first solo tour. Um, their tour was called the Boss Tanical Tour. And I was like, flowers, hello, I need to do something with them. So I started messaging them. They got millions of followers. No, of course, no response. And then one day I was like, who's their manager? So I Googled their manager, found their manager. He only had 1,200 followers. I was like, he'll respond. So I messaged him and said, I'm a Black florist in Sacramento. I would love to do something with the girls. I'm exploring a new medium of paper flowers. I would love to make stuff for them for their set. And he was like, let's do it. And so I did flowers for their set on Tuesday. And that was wild. Cool. So yeah, just putting myself out there and just, I don't know, just having ideas and running with it. That something pays off sometimes.
I think that's one of the scariest things, right? Putting yourself out there to be like, you know what? I know you may not know me, but let me
right,
introduce myself. And so I guess, what is your thought process as you talk yourself into those things, right? Because, you know, we gotta have some self-talk as we go through those things, because so much is coming up in our head as we're deciding to email or write these folks.
Yeah. I think I've gotten used to people just not responding. I'm used to people reaching out to me and then I respond and they don't respond. You know, brides they love just price shopping. So I've gotten used to no response. So I guess it doesn't scare me anymore. And I try to think of it like, if they respond, this is really cool. Like something could come of it. So I don't know. I think I try to look at things as more of a possibility without getting my hopes up. But at the same time, learning that it's okay to get my hopes up sometimes about certain things. Like when they booked me for that, I was like, this is a scam. I don't know, the whole process, talking to their team, different phone numbers, different everything. My husband's like, you think someone just set up this whole team to scam you? And I was like, you never know. I'm not gonna believe it until I drop these flowers off.
Let me sign that contract first. Deposit that money. But yeah, I think that self-talk as you branch out into new things and put your foot out there, like, you know, let me just dive in and see what happens. And so when we think about that, like, what's some advice that you would give to young entrepreneurs, young Black women entrepreneurs that are like stepping into this new era of their work and wanting to put their work out there?
I think that the advice that I was given, just do it. Like literally just go for it. It's a gamble, period. Starting a business, getting into any job, you know, is a gamble. You don't know if you're going to hate the people that you work with. So starting your own business, obviously you need support. You need to be able to be smart and say, can I support myself on this thing if something falls through? If it takes a while for things to get off the ground. But that's always my advice, is just go do it. You don't need, obviously, get your business license, do that. But you don't need to be established to get work. People will trust that you can do what you're telling them to do if you tell them to trust you.
Right.
I still do that to this day, where I get brides asking, can I see a mock-up of what my bouquet is going to look like or what my centerpiece is going to look like? And I tell everyone, you have to trust your florist. This is a trust your florist moment. You chose me for a reason. Right. You see my work, but if you want a mock-up, this is how much it costs. But I always advise against it. Trust me that I know what I'm doing. So that's what I tell other girls. Yeah.
I love that. And okay, let's talk about pricing, because I feel like, whew,
that's hard.
That's right. That's hard. And I think too, as you know, I've gone to vending events and done things for my own business, and like people always question, like, oh,
That's pricey.
That's pricey. That's expensive. It's like,
Yeah.
girl, you got Jordans on. Don't talk about
Right.
nothing pricey. And so, like, how are you having conversations, right, around that and like being confident in your price and not feeling like, ooh, I need to shift this thing or this needs to change, right? Of like being confident in your worth when it comes to your work.
I think it's that being confident, knowing that what you're doing is good, and just because the person at the market is saying it's pricey, there's someone behind her that's going to be like, oh, I'll take two. You know what I mean? You have to know your worth. You have to trust your own product and what you're putting out there, because if you don't even trust your product, no one else is going to want it. That's probably something that my husband and I butt heads about the most is pricing, because he's a potter. I've been in business longer than he has, and although I'm not a potter, I know that the things that he's making are beautiful and look expensive. So when he puts a price tag on something, I'll go behind him and be like, oh, I was going to raise that a little bit, because I know how much work goes into it. I know how much he has studied that thing, and how much joy it brought him to make it also. And I know how much joy it'll bring another person to have in their home. So I'm like, you have to know your worth. You have to know that this thing that you're making is amazing. Because if you don't feel that, no one else is going to. And we are not going to be known as the cheap pottery shop,
No, we don't want.
Not in Curtis Park. So yeah, it's that, knowing your worth. And yeah, pricing is hard. Pricing anything is hard, because you don't want to be too expensive, because you're like, I do want people to buy it. But you'll notice a lot of things, sometimes if people are selling out a certain thing so quickly, they should price more, price it higher. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, because I think about that as like folks who have products, right? Because I think about all the different types of entrepreneurs, but there is a little bit more hustle that comes with like having a product, right? That you're selling, and also that you're creating yourself, right? That you have to go through the creation process and then market it.
That there's like so many hats that as business owners that we wear on our own. Like, I do all the consultations, order all the flowers, process all the flowers, clean all the containers, take stickers off, green the containers. You know what I mean? It's just, there's so many steps to what we're doing. And that could go for anyone who's painting. You're the one who is sketching everything, who's buying the paint, who's getting the canvases, who is, you know what I mean, spending the hours doing that thing. And you have to know, like, for yourself, that all of that is money. That's all money.
And that goes into your product pricing.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of times people forget that. They're like, oh, this is how much supplies were. This is how much is the container or whatever else and the label. And that's it. But it's like, you didn't include your time.
Your time. Think about when you work a 9 to 5, you're paid per hour.
Yes.
So think of your hourly cost. Like, I want to make such and such amount per hour. So add that up. There's formulas for everything. But I don't know. I feel like I'm always the one of my friends who's like, oh, you should turn that into a business.
Why does that mean? I'm like, you good at that? You know you can do it. You want me to help you? It's like, no.
Literally.
It's so funny because I was having that conversation with somebody the other day of like differentiating which skill should be profited off of. And it's like, not every skill needs to be turned into a business. And so how do you
100%. I paint portraits, and no one knows that, because I don't sell them. I'm like, I don't want this to turn into work for me, because I enjoy doing it. I can do it on my own time. But if I give you a gift that's a portrait, you can be like, oh, that's cute. Okay. Even if it doesn't look exactly like your grandma. Like,
close enough.
Be like, it was free. But the moment you pay for it, you're like, I really thought it was going to look more like her. You know what I mean? So
it's a gift. Mind your business.
I'll take that back. Thank you.
Leave that be. But I like that, because you need some time for self-care. And I have definitely been, especially in my younger years, of like, oh, I'm good at this. Let me turn this into, it's like, no, this is for me.
Yeah.
This is for me, and I'm just gonna let it be, and everything else will kind of navigate on that way.
Yeah, the amount of businesses I have started, but they weren't passions, obviously.
Right. Exactly. Or the ones that I have in my head, because I'd be like, "Ooh, I could do this. I could do that." It's like, "Oh, bring it back. Bring it back." You know, how do we wind it down?
Oh, the moment we got a brick and mortar, I was like, what can I make and sell? I don't have time to make anything.
It's like you have a fully run business right here, and you're trying to make it into something else.
Exactly.
Well, also thinking about that, how do you pull yourself back from that, right? Like that balance of like, okay, like what
Reality.
I'm doing, reality check. Like this
Yes.
is enough. This is more than enough, right?
Yes. I think today I realized, okay, maybe I put too many things on my plate today when I was leaving the house, and my 3-year-old goes, "Mommy, don't go." And she doesn't say that to me. She's a daddy's girl, and she can care less about my presence. But today, she was like, "Mommy, don't go." And I was like, I might have to cancel everything. I clearly need to spend more time with my children. That.
That's real, and that's a reality.
That's a reminder,
check.
yes.
Right. Of like, okay, I need to take more time for
Yes.
myself. But,
Exactly.
Babies will always remind you.
One thing.
She's like, ma'am, bring that ass
Again?
back. You're leaving again? But yes, first of all, I just want to say I appreciate all the laughter and joy in this moment. And like,
Thank you.
as we are like coming to the close of this, like, how do you continuously remind yourself of the joy in your work?
I'm surrounded by really cool people. I keep saying my husband, Kevin, he is my biggest supporter, constantly reminding me how good of a job I'm doing. And my friends are the same way. Group chats are really helpful to be like, look at this thing I made when you need a little boost of confidence, and my friends are just like, they love bomb me just for a little bit. And I'm like, okay, I needed that, you guys. Thank you. Appreciate that. But yeah, I surround myself with really cool people. And sometimes when I need a reminder, I go to Dutch Bros, and they think I'm so cool there. Like when I tell them I'm a florist, they like pulling up with flowers in the car. That's everything.
First of all, I don't know what they do to their workers, but Dutch Bro, they're always so happy.
They are
Every time you
happy.
roll up in there, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, how you doing? Y'all jamming in here, having a good time?
Enthusiastic,
Yes.
just inspiring, motivating, all the things.
I love that. I didn't hear what you sound like that. Yeah, that. I think the joy is a big piece in like sustainability of your work and like being able to find moments of it as you're like going through those tough times or those times when you're like, "Mommy, are you gonna stay?" Like, whew, like breathing. I'm like, okay, how do we move into this? And I heard you talk about earlier like your calendar and all those things. But what happens when that's not enough? Like your calendar is not enough to pencil in your joy, to pencil in your self-care, to pencil in your family. It's like, how do you find that balance and that care in that moment?
I think that's that part that I'm working on. That part that, like I said, self-care has been a bit of a struggle for me because I wear so many hats. And I'm tired all the time. So napping is honestly,
I'm a good
take
adult
a nap. Yes.
Yes. And also let's talk about, especially as Black women, how are we asking for help? You know what I mean?
Oh, I have no problem asking for help.
Good.
I don't.
You were like,
Shani,
how are you asking for help?
I
in these
had
moments?
no problem.
Yes.
I'm one of those people, like, if you tell me, like, oh, let me know if you need anything, I would be like, hey, I need something.
Good.
I need help with this thing. Who can come through and help me? Like I said, I surround myself with amazing people. My friends have all been at the shop. They know, like a friend of mine today was like, I miss you. I'm about to come help you with your class.
Yes.
Because I know that's where you're going to be and I want to spend time with you. So I appreciate that. So, and that's help also,
Yes, that is help.
I'm going to treat her to dinner, but
But But that is
But
help.
yes.
Right. Because I think that's the biggest, like a big portion of entrepreneurship is like not feeling isolated, that you can ask for help and that people are going to
Exactly.
be genuine about the help if you're surrounded by genuine people.
Yes.
So that's a big piece of it. Hmm. Well, I also want to open up the space to questions. So if anybody has questions, anybody have any questions? Okay. We're going to give the mic. How do you want to?
Hi, my name is Nailani. So I absolutely love flowers too. How would I go about finding you?
Finding me?
Yes.
Oh, so my shop is called Poppy and Pot. We are in Curtis Park on Franklin Boulevard. We're pretty close to Gunther's, right next door to Hop Gardens. But you can find us on Instagram, Poppy and Pot. I don't use Facebook like that. We got a Facebook.
It's Poppy and?
Yes, and if you Google us, we'll come right up.
Okay. And are you a Leo?
No,
What's your sign?
Aquarius.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Was that a good oh? Yeah, okay.
No, I like Aquarius too.
Where is your shop again?
We're in Curtis Park, 2908 Franklin Boulevard, Suite A. Right next door.
Do you guys offer any like potting classes, pottery classes,
Yes,
planting classes?
we do. We're actually getting ready to announce our April schedule. I think this weekend we're going to announce it. But if you sign up for the newsletter on our website, poppyandpot.com, at the very bottom of our homepage, there's a spot to put your email in. And you'll be the first to know when we have new classes. We host events. We're actually going to be having someone's getting married in our shop. Like, I feel so honored by that.
Somebody's getting married at their shop.
Yes. So yeah, we rent our space for events, for things like this. Let us know. And we host Drag Queen Storytime monthly, also. And yeah, we do a lot of fun stuff. I try to keep the classes that we do really non-traditional and different because I'm a very non-traditional florist. I probably didn't say much about what I actually do. I work with a lot of color, obviously. And usually whenever people call me and they haven't ordered from me before, I always ask, like, you've seen the website, right? You've seen my Instagram. I just want to make sure you know who you're ordering from because you're not going to get a dozen roses. That's not what I do. For Valentine's Day, I'll do it. That's where the money is. But regularly, no.
My name is Penelope, and you sidestepped the question a little bit about the imposter syndrome.
Maybe.
And I want to go back to that because you seem to be doing so well in spite of that. But what about that?
Maybe I'm good at faking it. No, I think that we are doing really well. We've been in business for just a little over a year, and I'm very happy with where we're at. We are a husband and wife team. We have 2 daughters, and we are completely supporting ourselves on being creative and people trusting us to be creative. But there are definitely those moments where probably with every wedding that I do, I am always like, is this arrangement big enough? Because when people are paying for something, especially when it comes to flowers, they equate size with how expensive something is. So if, granted, I've never had a complaint on the size of an arrangement. The only complaint I've ever had was on a wedding, and it's still my favorite wedding I've ever done, even though the couple complained about pretty much everything that I did. But I was so proud of my work, and I told them that when they sent the long email, and I said, I'm actually really proud of my work I did that day, and I'm sorry that you feel like it wasn't what you expected, but I'm very proud of the work that I did. It's me really working on being proud of myself, but I do have the moments probably daily where I feel like what I'm doing may not be good enough or may not be big enough. Something I've struggled with recently is transitioning the way that I design. Before, I added a lot of really colorful dried elements to my arrangements. And so I was known for that. And now I'm kind of over it, but people are still expecting it. So when I make an arrangement that doesn't have the dried elements, I'm like, oh, here we go. This is the complaint's coming. It's coming. And then we get a review that it was amazing. And I, have to remind myself that I'm doing a good job. Did I answer your question? I'm sorry.
You were close though. Let me rephrase it.
Yes.
Because you said something about your family being religious and not accepting who you are. I want you to address that.
Oh.
I want you to go deeper.
Okay. Ooh. I know we were doing that today.
Also, too, just a reminder, right, as we are creating space, that you share what you feel comfortable with, right? Because
For sure.
as,
Yeah.
as we're creating a container, we can't always close it.
Yeah.
I don't want you to leave here feeling
Bad.
raw.
No.
You gotta be raw and open in that, as you're attending here. So.
Yeah. I'll be honest, when I was asked to come here today, I was nervous. When I think of Black crowds, my mind goes to Christian crowds because that's where I was brought up. That's who my family is. And so I was afraid of I was originally coming in drag today because I have a class. But because I had an event before this, I didn't have time to get into drag, come here. So I'll be doing that after. But I was so nervous about getting into drag because I did not know if I would be accepted for being just in hair and makeup. So that's a hard one for me. Da'Reen.
I just know Poppy and Pot. But what you did just right there said to me something about you, and it's enough.
Thank you.
You're enough.
Thank you for that.
But it also reminded me when you talk about the imposter and then with the religious background, it's almost like, you were put in your head that this imposter syndrome started before you can even control it, so doing what you do is very therapeutic, because you're coming out of that imposter. That's your therapy. Like, look, I am able to coin this. I'm able to do how do you say that word? Transform this into, it's so brave because you didn't really know you were probably doing it, but your soul wants to be free. You know what I'm saying? And when you're raised in like Jehovah's Witnesses and different, not downing any of them, because my family's Jehovah's Witness, but when you're raised a certain way, even at birth or in the womb, it's almost designing. So you have to reprogram everything. It's almost like therapy. So I don't know, I think you're pretty cool.
Thank you.
Hello. Money is a motivation for me. I'm a money person. So, do you mind sharing, like, how much were you making then when you saw that the florist company was making way more?
Yes. So, for example, I would do, which is considered a small wedding, $2,500. It's a small wedding. That's a couple centerpieces, an arch, bride, bridesmaids, boutonnieres. That's like a standard, like low end average. So, for example, if they were making $2,500 for that wedding that I'm doing by myself, and I'm making $14 an hour doing that, it was time. Yeah. Like you said, the math wasn't mathing. I was like, wait, this is like I made all of maybe $200 doing this, and the profit margin was huge for them. And I was the one who did all the work. Again, like I said, still even in a shop, because I'm the one who's doing the wedding, I'm still the one that's ordering the flowers, that's processing the flowers, that's making everything. So yeah, that's when I said, you know what? I think I can use that $2,500 myself.
I'll take that.
I'll take that. You're welcome.
I just want to thank you so much for coming today, being vulnerable with us, sharing joy and laughter with me. I greatly appreciate it. And also share how people can find you again.
Yes. First of all, I appreciate you guys for having me. I'm glad I came.
Me too. I'm glad you came too.
Yes. But you can find us on Instagram, Poppy and Pot. You can find us on our website, poppyandpot.com. My email is info@poppyandpot.com. But we do full service weddings, we do classes, we do events. So if you ever need anything, let us know, and we might be able to still make it, even if it's not something that we do.
Well, can we give another round of applause for Da'Reen? Thank you.
Thank you.